big sky, big potential. In association with Mills and Reeve, this is Eastern Promise. Achieving more together. This is episode 123 of the Eastern Promise podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rigby, and this week we're celebrating a collaboration that's at the very heart of what Eastern Promise is all about. This week, we look at the collaboration between Cambridge-based materials innovation company Xampla and Norwich's Quadram Institute. Together, they're working to advance probiotic microencapsulation technology. What's that, you ask? Fear not! I'll be joined by Xampla nutritionist Hannah Pearse and Professor Arjan Narbad of the Quadram Institute to reveal all. So, let's get to the guts of this tale of triumph for your tummy, fresh from the east of England, in this week's Eastern Promise. You've probably seen probiotics feature in pills, potions, drinks and desserts on the shelves of a supermarket near you. So, what are probiotics? Well, according to the NHS website, probiotics are live bacteria and yeasts promoted as having various health benefits. They're usually added to yogurts or taken as food supplements. You may have seen them described as good or friendly bacteria. Probiotics can help restore the natural balance of bacteria in your gut, including your stomach and intestines, when it's been disrupted by an illness or by treatment. All sounds great, right? But probiotics are delicate, highly sensitive to oxygen exposure, pH imbalance, and pasteurization. This has limited the scope and type of probiotics used. Until now. Cambridge materials innovator Xampla has developed microencapsulation technology to protect probiotics from manufacture to munch, ensuring they are as effective as possible. But where do you go to trial this technology? Where else but the Quadram Institute on the Norwich Research Park, home to world-healing scientists, academics and NHS clinicians with a mission to deliver healthier lives through innovation in gut health, microbiology and food. Eager to celebrate this triumph of the Cambridge-Norwich Tech Corridor, Eastern Promise headed out to the Quadram Institute to chat about this collaboration with Xampla. First up, I'm delighted to introduce Xampla nutritionist Hannah Pearse.
My background is nutrition. I'm a registered nutritionist, but I've got about 17 years experience working with various food and consumer goods companies. I joined Xampla at the start of last year, so coming up to 2 years, as their nutrition business development manager. And part of my role, as we'll talk more about, is to work collaboratively with brands to identify different new product development opportunities to utilise our nutrient microencapsulation technology, which we will discuss in more depth later. I also work across our plastic-free packaging solutions. I can tell you a little bit more about that later. Basically, our technology is all based on plants, and it's designed to replace some of the most polluting plastics and single-use plastics, but also because it is such a versatile material and innovative technology, it can do a whole host of other applications. Prior to Xampla, I've worked in retailers, manufacturers, a social impact organisation, but really my passion is all about how can we make it easier for people to make healthier and more sustainable choices. And there's a whole different array of ways that I've looked at doing this, and obviously now it's all about innovation and the cutting edge technology that Xampla is working on.
Well, I've seen your website, which is, sorry to put you on the spot,
Oh, yes, Xampla. So anyone looking for it, begins with an X, xampla.com. So yes, all of our application information is on there.
I mean, what I loved about that is how it specifies that nature knows what it's doing. We don't need to necessarily monkey around too much with nature, but we work with nature. And the kind of a range of stuff that you can use and adapt plant proteins to replace is amazing. And I always find with these conversations the phrase, well, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you get rid of plastics and bring in something that's eminently sustainable? So can you just fill out the kind of, I suppose, portfolio of the things Xampla work in?
Absolutely. So first of all, Xampla, because probably many of the listeners won't have heard of us, we are a materials innovation company. So we develop and license world-first natural plant polymer materials, you've already touched on that, that can be used to really change the world. And that's really our focus. Our high-performance materials can be used across a whole host of different applications. So today we'll be talking mainly about our microencapsulation technology. And this is about utilising our plant polymer, so plant proteins in this case, to encapsulate really valuable cargoes, ingredients, so that we can offer a really superior fortification solution for the food and beverage industry. But we've also created our Moro material portfolio. So Moro material is slightly easier to spell. That's one of our consumer-facing brands. So this is our brand that encapsulates all of our plastic-free solutions. And again, these are made with natural plant polymers. We don't do any cross-linking. We don't add any chemicals. So it makes them truly biodegradable, truly compostable. They also don't interfere with recycling when they're used on paper and board. So they really are offering a truly plastic-free, high-performance solution to single-use plastics that unfortunately currently often end up in landfill, or worse, end up in the environment in the form of microplastics. And we've all heard about the huge crisis we have with microplastics. So just to touch on this a little bit more for listeners that are interested, main applications are around flexible film at the moment, so replacements for things like PPOH that you might find on your dishwasher tablets. And we also can do an edible version of that for things like stock cubes and beverages and things. So in that case, it's made food grade, so you can just eat the entire packaging.
Not the dishwasher tablet, let's be clear about that. Don't eat the dishwasher.
Don't eat the dishwasher tablet. And then we also have our Moro coating. This is already in market, being made at scale. And this is a barrier coating to things like paper and board. So imagine you're buying your pizza takeaway box. Currently, that will probably have a synthetic coating, which is, so there's obviously a movement to move towards something that's natural, that's plastic-free, partly because there's a lot of regulation coming in place, and also consumers want something that's better for the planet. So we have a great barrier coating that offers great grease and moisture barrier that can be used in a whole host of different applications. So Xampla, hopefully I've sort of made the point, we're very much the innovation. We work with partners to scale our technology to ensure we can really grow at pace and really have the impact that we're setting out to achieve. We also have B Corp status.
That is important.
I know. We're the first university spin out to be awarded B Corp status.
Is that at Cambridge or just generally?
Generally, but yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
so we're very proud of that. So that's just been recertified. But it's really important because it underpins what we do and how we do it. It's really important for us at Xampla.
Could you just, if you could, go a bit more into the people, the companies, the brands, globally that Xampla are working with before we talk, we'll get into the specifics of microencapsulation and Quadram. But just talk more about the sort of global reach, and then we'll sort of move towards Quadram via sort of talking about the University of Cambridge. So go ahead.
Of course, So we spun out sort of in 2018, but our first employee joined us in 2020, and we're now at about 45 people. But we have got a world-leading team. We've got incredible scientists, some that that underpin the whole research and the technology, such as our founder and CTO, Mark Rodriguez. But we've also got a lot of industry people. Myself have come from industry, but also a lot of other commercial leaders that have worked in this space. So really know what it is that we need to do to be successful with what we're setting out to achieve. As I mentioned before, we're very much the innovation behind this. So the way we are scaling is by licensing our technology. We can't do everything ourselves. So partnership and collaboration and finding really good licensing partners is how we're going to really grow and scale at pace. So I mentioned about our coating that's already commercially available. We already have a licensing partner for that. It's a company called 2M Group of Companies. They're based in the UK, looking to supply the UK and European market. So instead of making kilograms of our coating in our lab, we're already making tons of it in a bespoke site. And some of that was also accelerated with some grant funding as well. And then on top of that, we've also got partnerships that I can mention in the public domain with packaging companies such as Huhtamaki and Transcend, who are already looking to replace their synthetic coatings for food and beverage packaging. And then in other spaces, we've had partnerships with Elemis. Anyone that is familiar with the high-end cosmetics, maybe Frequenza Spa, probably heard of their brand. And we had a really interesting project with them, looking at how we can use one of their waste products, so borage, which they use for the oil, but how can we use the plant protein from that to make packaging? And we had a really good project with them to make a sachet, which actually made it to one of the COP events last year.
Really?
Yes, our sachet's well travelled, so that's a really, really exciting. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to work with others, a bit like Quadram, we'll be talking to today, that have expertise in other space that can bring new things to our technology so we can grow and have applications in lots of different markets.
That's incredible. I'm still hung up on the pizza box. And it's just, why wouldn't you want your food to sit on something natural rather than a load of chemicals? And we just don't, I had never considered that. So that is amazing. And just talk to me about the Cambridge ecosystem and why that's a place where, I mean, I don't think you can call it, it doesn't sound like you can call it, the days of being a spin-out are along behind you and you're sort of well established. But what is it about that ecosystem that's allowed you to thrive?
We are very lucky in Cambridge and East Anglia that there are a lot of incredible organisations, you know, in this very innovative space. Obviously, we're working with food and consumer goods companies as well. So those companies that really, and those research institutes such as Quadram that really understand that landscape, you know, offer a really good partnership and sort of collaborative opportunities. I know we'll come on more to the Quadram Institute later, but obviously they've got world-leading expertise in this case, probiotics and microorganisms, which we just don't have. And the fact that they are practically on our doorstep makes this collaboration even more exciting, that they are just down the road. But we are always looking for partners, whether they're commercial partners, research partners, that have the right skill set to complement what we already know about our plant materials and technology to really drive innovation.
Well, for those listening who are playing East of England bingo, I think you've probably got a full house now, because those are all the keywords I absolutely love. I think that really is a testament, and I would say this, wouldn't I, to the Cambridge ecosystem, which I find isn't what people think it is from the outside. It's actually a really welcoming environment and a really willing to outreach environment and a really collaborative environment. And that's something I really want to sort of champion and encourage people to see it that way. But we are, as you say, we are here at the Quadram Institute, and this is not the first time we've been here, and we've done the tour with someone from Cambridge, as it happens, Tammy Dugan. Hello, Tammy. You should be listening, I'm sure you are. And we've held events here. And you're absolutely right. It is an amazing, amazing building, spun out of the former Institute for Food Research, Quadram, because four partners have come together to form this place. And it serves so many functions. It looks at gut health, and it looks at... Where was I? I was picking up the Quadram Institute. For the tape, we've just been joined by Andrew Stronach, who is the Head of Public Affairs here at the Quadram. Is that correct?
Yeah, Head of External Relations.
Head of External Relations.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Andrew Stronach, Head of External Relations here at the Quadram Institute. We were just talking, Hannah and I, about how wonderful this place is and how we're no stranger at Eastern Promise to it. So talk us through the relationship with Xampla. From your point of view, what does that allow you to do?
Yeah, I mean, a really key part of what we do and what we're funded to do, what the public benefit is scientific innovation, but then commercialisation and working with industry partners. So the opportunity to work with companies like Xampla is bread and butter for us. It's what we're here to do. I think this is a particularly exciting one. There's a clear need for these kinds of developments and products. And I think the links between Norwich and Cambridge are complementary. We can develop these links as we go.
Well, I think if people hadn't got the East of England bingo card filled before, they certainly have now. This is, as I say, this is the bit I absolutely love, when the parts of the region work together. And if there's anyone out there that wants to tell more of that story, please get in touch with me. Our details will be in the podcast notes. But Hannah, when next for Xampla? Where do you grow from this, and how are you sort of striding forward?
Well, we are looking, obviously it's great to have partners on our doorstep, but obviously we're looking globally. And as I mentioned before about our licensing model, we're looking to have licensing partners across all markets to service all geographies. And whether that's from our plastic-free packaging, Moro packaging, or whether it's from our microencapsulation. Our microencapsulation is a platform technology, so we can encapsulate all sorts of different ingredients and cargoes. We've done a lot of work in vitamin D. This particular grant is obviously about probiotics, and we'll discuss that in more depth, I'm sure. But it is a scalable technology, so we'll be looking for other partners as well, where this really has applications that can solve existing technical challenges and offer new innovative solutions. I mentioned before about some of our commercial partners as well that are in the public domain, and of course, as Andrew alluded to, there's no point, we're not doing this for fun. It has to have commercial pull, it has to service either a technical challenge in the industry, solve a challenge or a technical problem, or really step change innovation. So with me talking to clients and brands regularly, I can be at the front foot of what are they facing into, and how can our technology help them solve some of those challenges or offer something new and innovative to their consumers.
Now that's really interesting. Well, let's just dig into microencapsulation for a minute. And this may be completely different. So if it's completely different, tell me, and we'll cut that this bit. But not that long ago, we put out an episode featuring Ediform, which out of the UEA, it spun out the UEA. But the scientist on that recording, Professor Sheng Qi, Professor of Pharmaceutical Material Science, was talking in the recording about 3D printed pharmaceuticals that again break sort of time release. Mm-hmm. So you get medicine dispensed into your body at the appropriate time. You can sort of cut down half the drugs you're taking, which are sort of to counteract the side effects of the other half. And so I don't know how that relates to microencapsulation, but I'm going to now ask you to tell me what that is.
Well, that is fascinating. I will go back and listen to that episode because I haven't listened to that one yet.
I thank you for making the plug complete.
So in terms of our microencapsulation technology, I've mentioned about our plant polymer materials already, but essentially what we're doing is taking these plant materials and wrapping them around a valuable ingredient. So, for example, I've used vitamin D as an example already, and we're forming a protective shell. And these are microcapsules as well. I think some people say capsules and think of a supplement that you might buy in a jar, but these are tiny. They're typically 30 microns, so imperceptible once they're in a food and a drink product. But these, so you're sort of providing them as a powder, so they can be added into food and beverage, and they're a drop-in manufacturing ingredient. We know that consumers are looking for additional benefits in food and beverages. They're looking for functional foods that can offer them health benefits above and beyond standard products. And this is a growing market. But there can be lots of technical challenges to adding vitamins, probiotics to products and ensuring that they're actually going to reach the consumer and offer the full benefits that the product is claiming on the pack. For example, something like a vitamin can degrade from things like pasteurization, so heat shock, very common processing step. Over shelf life, they could be degraded by things like UV if it's in clear packaging, or they might just be unstable in extreme pH environments. So our protective shell, if you like, is guarding against all of these environmental factors. So when you put this nutrient in at the start of the process, you can be sure that it will still be there at the end of shelf life once the consumer consumes the product. But coming back to the release profile and your point around that, the thing that makes this really exciting is that the capsule itself has also been tested throughout digestive modelling, and Quadram actually did that for us as well. So we've got lots of data on that Quadram did. And what we did was replicate the different times and conditions of digestion and demonstrate that these tiny capsules are stable throughout oral digestion, stable throughout gastric digestion, and then the capsules are digested and broken down when they reach the intestine, releasing the cargo at the site. So that's very exciting from a vitamin perspective. That's the site of absorption. But this is why we're very excited from a probiotic perspective, because for something to be a probiotic, it needs to survive that gastric stage of digestion, reach the intestine to ensure that it can exert those health benefits. So that's why, as a platform technology, it's a great mechanic, and why we were really, really keen to explore probiotics and what our platform technology can offer in this space.
Well, you're definitely in the right place for that. Now, first of all, let me congratulate you for carrying on with that so brilliantly while I danced around and fiddled with the technology. And second, let me welcome Arjan, who's now been able to join us. I will cut this together so it seems seamless. So could you just very quickly introduce yourself and what you do here at the Quadram Institute?
Yeah, so I'm Arjan Narbad. I'm a group leader here in Quadram Institute, and my group is working on the role of gut microbiome in health and disease, and we are particularly interested in finding ways to modulate the microbiome for health.
And these are areas where Norwich and the Quadram absolutely excel. I can be grandiose and say world leaders in this field. So, from your point of view, could you tell us more about how the partnership with Xampla came about and how you engaged with that?
I think partnership came about through our business department, who initially engaged with Xampla and saw an opportunity here to collaborate in the area of probiotics. Because we have within my group, we're interested in developing probiotics for health purposes. So we have a large number of strains that are beneficial to us, and of course, as mentioned previously, probiotic is $1 billion industry, and there are many different probiotic products out in the market. Do they all work, and how efficacious are they? So one of the issues that with probiotic is, when you look at the bottle and it says 10 to the 9 bacteria per gram, are they really viable at that level when you consume it? Yeah. And some research has shown that actually that number may be correct when they package it, but when you actually consume it, it's probably a lot less. So we want to establish technology where those viable cells remain viable when you consume it, so that it has it can demonstrate the beneficial effect.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really interesting. And I think, there's been, as you said, a huge growth, and it's set to grow, to be huge. I think the stat I was given was £170 billion globally by 2030. So it's a huge growing space. And there are a lot of products on the shelf, but they do tend to be chilled, so shorter shelf life. And as Arjan's said, even when they are adding it, they can still degrade over shelf life. So, you don't always know, and there's no way a consumer can count those microorganisms when they get at home and in the fridge to check they're going to be really getting the health benefits that they're claiming. We get a lot of inbound when they find out our capsules are enteric release. We've had a lot of inbound queries, and there's a lot of companies that want to add these beneficial organisms into their products. But outside of chilled products and outside of sort of categories like dairy predominantly, it's very challenging to do technically because of the processing steps that I've already alluded to, longer shelf life products, which also then limits the number of consumers and the number of strains that we're able to offer from a public health perspective. So,
correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope I haven't misunderstood this, but your role, Arjan, and the Quadram's role is basically to confirm that the product survives that journey through oral digestion, through the gut, and is released where it is intended to be released through the fantastic technology you've got here.
That's right. So the idea is that we've got certain strains which we think are beneficial. So we've given them to Xampla, and they're going to use their technology to encapsulate them. And then we're going to see that the benefits of encapsulating in terms of the shelf life in the first place, and then secondly, that they actually do survive the transit through the stomach and the duodenum, and that they are effectively released in the colon. And to do that, Quadram has a number of different models. For example, we have the InfoGest model, which mimics the conditions of the stomach and the duodenum. And then we also have the colon models, which mimic the microbiological environment of the large intestine. So with this model system, what we will be able to test is that the viable bacteria that are encapsulated, do actually survive the transits to the stomach, and that they're released in the large colon, but also the impact of those live bacteria on the gut microbiome in the large intestine, and what impact does it have on the structure and function of the microbiome?
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, and I think this grant is really exciting. So it's an Innovate UK, I haven't mentioned this yet, BBSRC grant, but this is a feasibility study because we've made it sound, very, very easy, but actually it's very challenging. These microorganisms need to remain viable. They're not inert substances, so we are going to have to work hard and make sure our capsules do offer that protection in all these different scenarios. And also look at, is it the same for different strains? And obviously having Quadram on board, they can advise how are these strains likely to respond to the process that we put them through to microencapsulate them. And then obviously further down, how are they likely to respond throughout different processing conditions, right through, as we've said, to digestion. And yes, we have commercial partners, and we've worked with companies such as Britvic on vitamin D. But when you've got an early concept, where you need to put in a lot of groundwork, grants like this are essential to really accelerate this development. We know lots about our materials and about our plant polymers, but we can't pretend to be experts on everything, especially something as complex as probiotics. So partnering with the Quadram is really beneficial and will really help us accelerate this concept.
Well, you've beat me to my next question, which is very, very well done. So you say you made it sound easy, and I don't think that's necessarily, I think that's a good thing, because eventually you talk to dim bulbs like yours truly, who is desperately trying to grasp, and you've made it really simple, really straightforward. And eventually, hopefully, as it should, this thing will hopefully come before, people like ministers, people like Daniel Zeichner, who we've had on the podcast before, and who indeed came to this very building for our event in February just gone. So You've alluded to this now, because this is an East of England sort of focused podcast. I'm going to sort of ask you to dig into it a bit more, and I'm going to ask the inverse question to Arjan and Andrew. But to have the Quadram's imprimatur on what you're doing, how much of a benefit is that to you, that you can sort of wield and say, look, this is a high quality partner we've got here, when you're talking to other?
Oh yeah, really, really beneficial, because we can talk with confidence around the strains we've looked at. We will be able to hopefully compare other strains and say, well, if it works for this, it's likely to work for this. So once we come to looking at commercialisation, and there will be specific strains that I'm sure some brands will want to incorporate, we will have a lot of that knowledge and understanding from the work from the Quadram, which we just couldn't have that level of detail and that level of knowledge at Xampla. So that will be absolutely essential. And also, as Arjan said as well, the fact that they have their own strains, we aren't having to incorporate the complexity of big commercial trademarked strains. The fact that we can work with strains that they already have permission to use and work in this space is also very beneficial for these early sort of feasibility studies. Is
the Quadram a name you're going to find yourself dropping, or along with other partners, I imagine? But as I say, this is about picking up the East of England.
Yeah, no, we already do actually, and I alluded to the. I alluded to the digestive modelling, which I find myself talking about a lot, because it goes that one step further, not just about, as I said, stability in product, but what's happening once consumers consume the capsules, regardless of the cargo. So that infogest modelling, the fact it's been done by a third party, a reputable third party, I do name drop Quadram a fair amount, because it's much more powerful if it comes, and we're looking to do a joint paper in this space as well, again, so that we can showcase the excellent study that Quadram did around the digestibility of our microcapsules.
Well, that must sound pretty good, you guys. And what I would just flip that and say is, not only what is it like to have a working with a partner such as Xampla that has seen such, I don't want to say meteoric rise, because that sounds a bit unstable, but sort of very steady growth, and they're now at nearly 50 employees, really exciting things that they're doing. And there's also, people, you would say this, wouldn't you? You get to, it's a Cambridge organisation, and I know that is a name that has a cachet. Whatever you think about that is a name that has a cachet. So what does that, Arjan, what does that mean to you professionally, working with a partner like Xampla?
Well, I mean, we are funded by BBSRC, so we're publicly funded, and one of our remit is that whatever science we do has to benefit the public and the UK PLC. And of course, and SMEs like Xampla are prime examples of British industry that we should be supporting. And we're very happy to support Xampla because they have this exciting technology which can be easily applied to the strain that we're trying to develop. And the fact that they are also in Cambridge, only 60 miles away, it also quite helps with this interaction. For example, when we actually generated a large number of cells that they need to test, they can be delivered within an hour. So that proximity also helps as well.
There you go.
Definitely does with live bacteria when you can shuttle them across delivery science delivery.
Doctor delivery.
Yeah,
That will happen eventually.
Yeah, so new concept there. Right there.
Oh, we had a discussion on the one we did on the new lab model in West Cambridge about whether we should have sort of free cycle for lab equipment, because there were startup spaces that were using donated and recycled lab equipment to help startups because they can't afford new stuff anyway. So, Andrew, just sort of reflect on what you've heard for us as the external facing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a really important thing here, which has been alluded to by both Hannah and Arjan, and that is the UK economy and growth. And we all know that in order to sort of have a healthy, successful society, we need more economic growth. Things have been pretty flat, but actually science and startups, wherever they are, whether they're in Cambridge or Norwich in the east of England, will play an absolutely fundamental role in that, so that every penny the taxpayer spends on science through us and BBSRC will have a much, much bigger benefit in the long run, both for people's health, jobs, and economic opportunities generally.
That's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it.
We're at the start of this grant and at the start of this journey, so it's a very exciting space that we're working in. I think this initial feasibility is for a year, but I think the challenges that we're addressing, are very relevant from a public health perspective and from an innovation and from a commercial opportunity perspective. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes from that perspective. So I think we should come back to either mid or towards the end of this grant.
Yes, please.
And let you know how we've got on.
Absolutely.
And what the next steps in this space will be. But I think I just want to say, Quadram, we're very excited to be working within this space, and partnership and collaboration, as I've said, are at the heart of how Xampla are going to really make the desired impact and really achieve the scale that we're looking to achieve.
My huge thanks to Hannah, Arjan and Andrew, and all at Xampla and the Quadram Institute for that hugely enjoyable and uplifting chat. A regular listener will have noticed that we here at Eastern Promise have a fondness for championing with particular excitement those projects, programmes, innovations and initiatives that bring our region together and leap across county boundaries. Isn't that right, chaps?
Yeah, why? What?
But Mike, I hear you cry. Businesses and universities across the east of England already work closely with others around the UK, Europe, nay, the entire globe. And yes, of course that's true and is to be celebrated. My point is, if we want to make a strong, successful case that the Oxcam Arc and East West Rail, to name but two, should extend further into the east of England, to Norwich and to Ipswich, we need to demonstrate progress and success in that difficult intersection between activity that's happening now and what more could happen and be turbocharged with the right investment. That's why collaboration between Xampla and the Quadram Institute represents a huge leap in the right direction. It requires excellence. Check. Proficiency. Check. And proximity. Check. Full house. That's why I'm especially delighted to shine the spotlight of sound on Xampla and the Quadram. And if you have a similar story, then please don't hesitate to contact Eastern Promise by emailing podcast@easternpromise.org.uk. Or even if it's a dissimilar story, I am here for you. And that's all he wrote for episode 123 of Eastern Promise, and no sign of Dusty Bin. I have been Mike Rigby, and will be so again next week, when my guest will be chair of the Cambridge Delivery Group, Peter Freeman. We'll be hearing about the man himself, his philosophies, and discuss the care with which he's approached his brief from the government. That's all coming up in episode 124 in but 7 short days' time. You can listen to previous episodes of the Eastern Promise podcast at easternpromise.org.uk or your service of choice such as Apple or Spotify. I am delighted to see episodes from throughout our back catalogue still getting listens. Please do keep it up. Again, if you want to reach out, drop me a line at podcast@easternpromise.org.uk via my LinkedIn DMs, or send me a message via our website, easternpromise.org.uk. Let's meet here again next week, okay? Until then, bye for now. Eastern Promise is a Priors Croft production in association with Mills & Reeve, achieving more together.